I had gotten back from my second trip to Europe in 1971. By 1972, I began to think about showing my work because I was very encouraged by what I was doing over in Denmark, in the little town of Växjö, where I had a studio. I thought, maybe I should get an MFA, Master of Fine Arts degree. I decided that I wanted to teach art history, and I wanted to be an artist. I didn't want to be an artist and teach being an artist. I wanted to separate my profession as an artist from my profession as an art historian. So I applied to a program at New York University, received my PhD. That entitled me to teach art history. My first job was not art history per se, it was art education at Wichita State University. What went along with that is my invitation to curate at the Ulrich Museum, which was on the campus. For the 3 years that I was there, I did 3 different exhibitions. The first was an Alan Capro retrospective, which included one of his so-called happenings or activities. The second one was survey of artist books. I began with Duchamp's Green Box Notes, which I got a copy of, along with many of the conceptual artists in New York, like Lawrence Weiner, Joseph Kosuth, and Robert Barry, Douglas Hubler, among others. The third exhibition was based on the work of Kolmar and Melamid, who were 2 Russian artists. They were taking conceptual art in a new direction. The direction wasn't simply narrative, but it opened up a kind of political discourse, which in those days was not so common. On the basis of that, I was hired as an art historian at the Rochester Institute of Technology, which is in upstate New York, near Buffalo. I was doing courses like contemporary art. This is the first time the institution had come into my career, teaching that you need to do research on a regular basis. And the research is not always what you're going to be talking about in class, but maybe sidelights of information from other periods that are comparable to the period that you're going to be talking about. I think that that is very important. How to bring the past into the present, how to make the present the past, in a sense, so that the past is not simply buried, but it is alive and fresh and open to new interpretation. I had had a very important meeting with the abstract expressionist artist Robert Motherwell. He said to me, in the way of advice, because at that time I was very young, he said, listen, if you're going to be an artist, don't teach art, teach something else. Well, the something else for me was art history, because I think there's a big breach between being a studio artist, teaching, and being an art historian. And I like that. I like that kind of separation. I like the fact that I was doing research, that I was attending to my way of speaking in relation to students and conducting a kind of discourse in the classroom. I enjoyed that very much. The fact that I was involved with art history eventually led me to criticism, and I began writing criticism in late 1979. The other part is that I was writing for Arts Magazine as well as other foreign publications like Art Press in Paris, where I wrote for, I think, 2 decades, from 1992 to 2001, I believe it was, something like that. As for writing criticism, it really was a great exercise in the use of language, in how to investigate, once again, the various works in various media, to understand the direction of the artist, to talk with the artist, to get some sense of who they were and why they were doing what they were doing. and then to maybe give I don't want to call it a judgment, but a point of view in terms of why this work may be significant or where it may be lacking in terms of what it's trying to achieve. I'm interested in making a painting that communicates, but it communicates something that I have in mind and body and maybe soul. Now, my paintings deal with geometry, but in a very particular sense. I'm much more engaged in what I would call the haptic or the tactile relationship to my work, even though I have to say that the tactility is very reduced in terms of how it sits in relation to the picture plane. I'm not trying to blare it out as something that is necessary for me to communicate. My communication is basically how I work and what I work on and how I see it at the moment that I know the work has been achieved in terms of that particular piece. My communication is independent in terms of whatever I feel it might be on that occasion in relation to a specific work. My concern is the work itself and how accurate the work is in terms of its completion and how it relates systemically to the body of work that I'm continuing to put forth. People used to ask me, how can you do all this? How can you do all these? Well, you decide that you're going to do them, first of all, and you make time in your schedule for when you're going to do them, and you try and be as clear as possible in terms of what you're attempting to achieve. Art has many facets, and you can be good at all of them if you work at it. It requires a good sense of dedication, that you are going to really work to do your best work. That's what I believed was necessary in order to work in this multiple area. When you get excited about something, you want to investigate the ideas, the materials, if the materials are involved, the sense of the object, if the object is involved. You want to be clear on how all of these things are working in relation to one another.